I love that. Hey, folks, welcome. Welcome back to the Basement Show podcast. Short. That's right, baby. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
All
pocket size.
That's pocket size, fun size. What do we got today, T?
Today we're going to talk about the console wars.
Ooh, rivalries.
Specifically, Sega versus Nintendo.
Sega.
Nintendo.
No.
It's a cereal now.
No.
Anyway.
Oh, man. I love Saturdays.
So Sega versus Nintendo. Nintendo launched in 1889.
1889?
1889 as a Japanese playing card manufacturer, while Sega had its roots in 1940 as a Hawaiian-based jukebox and slot machine distributor.
Right. Gambling.
Neither company foresaw it at the time, but the two would ultimately grow into giant entertainment corporations, sparking an intense rivalry that would define video games and pop culture for decades. Nintendo initially struggled to compete in an arcade scene dominated by Sega's machines and Space Invaders. But Nintendo did make an early attempt at a Japanese home console, the Color TV game, in 1977. It was essentially a variation on Pong, and it became popular enough to sell 3 million units. Nintendo had made some attempts to enter the arcade market in the 70s, but nothing really caught on for them until the revolutionary Donkey Kong in 1981, designed by a young artist named Shigeru Miyamoto.
Ah, thank you very much, Mr. Roboto.
By 1983, the arcade market suffered a downturn, prompting Sega to branch out with its first-time console, the SG-1000. It only sold 2 million units in Japan, but it did offer some notable games. Geary's Garden would be the first title created by Yuji Naka, who would later design Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's right.
In 1985, the U.S. game industry was in shambles. Atari had driven the market to oversaturation. I like Atari.
I loved it.
Spurring bankruptcies and general public apathy. But then Nintendo introduced the Famicom to the West as the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES.
That's right.
With careful branding that positioned the machine as a control deck instead of a video game console. With its uniquely creative games, Nintendo quickly gained a foothold in the U.S. Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda went on to sell a total of 46 million copies combined, boosting the success of the NES. The Sega Master System had a hard time achieving the same attention as the NES, but its software library still excelled at delivering artistic experiences. Alex Kidd, Sega's answer to Mario, starred in a complex adventure, and Phantasy Star went on to become one of the most respected RPG series of all time. After 2 decades of making games, Sega had yet to create a pop culture icon a la Mario. That all changed when Sega designer Yuji Naka helped create Sonic the Hedgehog in 1991. The Genesis game was insanely fast. Like nothing that had been seen before, he made the 8-bit Mario seem antiquated by comparison. Sonic was a very fast game. I don't think I've ever beaten it.
Oh my good, and how could it not be? I mean, the song.
I'm impressed you know the song.
Oh, of course I do.
Because everybody knows Mario.
Of course I do. Yeah.
2 years after the Sega Genesis was released, Nintendo finally released a 16-bit system, the Super NES.
F-Zero.
Early titles like F-Zero
Yes!
and Pilot Wings showed off an impressive range of colors and flashy visuals.
Awesome game. It was like Tron on crack. Oh, loved F-Zero.
The premier showcase for the Super NES was the next installment in Nintendo's popular Mario series, Super Mario World. It was a critical success and sold 20 million copies, largely as a pack-in title with the system. But the Nintendo mascot also faced serious opposition for the first time. Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog had already begun to mark his territory. Because Sega had launched the Sega Genesis so early, It had a robust catalog of quality action and sports games to counter the Super Nintendo's fledgling library. That has always been Nintendo's problem.
Right.
Every time they launch a system, there's like no games for it at all. They still haven't learned. They did that with the Switch.
Correct.
Sega capitalized on this with a snarky campaign brashly mocking Nintendo for being behind the times. The ads cemented Sega's reputation as the cooler company with the slogan, Genesis does what Nintendo don't.
Genesis does
16-bit arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does
16-bit sports action.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis does.
Get Joe Montana free, Pat Riley free, Buster Douglas free, Super Monaco GP free, or Collins free.
Genesis does.
What Nintendo don't. Buy a 16-bit Genesis system between now and October 31st and get an extra game.
Oh, Nintendo. Yeah.
Nintendo! As Genesis racked up gritty, high-octane racing titles like Road Rash, Nintendo stuck to milder, kid-friendly games. On September 1st, 1992, Nintendo released Super Mario Kart, a highly polished racing game featuring cute mascots. The game went on to become a top seller, pushing nearly 9 million units. That is still a very popular game, Super Mario Kart.
Tortoise shell is the most devastating weapon in all of Mario Kart.
Throw a banana peel. The title that exemplified the difference between Sega and Nintendo was a brutal fighting game, Mortal Kombat. Finish it!
Woo!
Violence in video games had grown into a controversial topic, and Nintendo would only allow Mortal Kombat on the system with blood effects censored into harmless gray sweat. The Genesis version contained a blood code that allowed players to perform all gruesome fatalities from the arcade game. As the battle between the two companies intensified, Sega initiated an unprecedented $10 million ad campaign to launch Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Sonic 2 released on Tuesday, November 21st, 1992, branded as Sonic Tuesday.
Oh.
It was one of the first games to receive a worldwide simultaneous launch and went on to sell more than 6 million copies. For a while, it seemed the Sega Genesis had taken the lead between the two 16-bit systems, but Nintendo delivered a late knockout punch with Donkey Kong Country. For surpassing the spectacular sales of Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, Donkey Kong Country 2 even took a swipe at Sega by including a picture of Sonic's iconic running shoes near a trash can.
Oh.
You garbage!
Take him to the dumpster.
The winner of the intense battle depends on your criteria, because both the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo have incredibly diverse libraries that contributed significantly to games as an art form. But in strict sales terms, the Super NES gets the edge, with 49.10 million consoles sold versus an estimated 40 million for Genesis. A lot of critics attribute Sega's downfall to its disorganized console strategy in the mid-90s, but when Sony PlayStation entered the console market in September of 95, it was a complete wrecking ball.
Oh, yes.
Demolishing previous sales records with huge hits like Final Fantasy VII, Gran Turismo. The PlayStation sold 102 million units worldwide, more than double the total of Nintendo 64 and Sega Saturn combined. Sega has always been more daring a company compared with the competition, with Sega's final console, the Dreamcast.
Ooh, take me away.
The company continued to innovate, even if it meant rushing to the market in 1999. The Dreamcast was the first console of the sixth generation, and it featured a built-in modem for online play. For back then, that
was pretty high
That's
tech.
pretty high tech, yeah.
Yep, big time.
A unique VMU controller display and an excellent, if small, game library. After achieving unsatisfied sales with the Dreamcast, Sega COO Hideki Saito announced in January of 2001 that the company would cease production of the system and exit the console market. With only 10.6 million units sold, Sega had simply suffered too many financial losses to continue. In many ways, Sega bowing out of the console race gave Nintendo just enough room to compete against Sony's PlayStation 2 and Microsoft's new Xbox console. In November of 2001, Nintendo introduced the GameCube, which went on to sell 21.74 million units worldwide. It was enough to keep the company above water until the unprecedented success of the Wii many years later.
Wee.
So, are you Sega? Are you Team Sega or Team Nintendo?
I'm either one. I do not currently own a console.
I meant back then.
Oh, back then?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go Sega.
Yeah?
Yeah, because of FIFA '93.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I was kicking.
You were a FIFA guy?
Oh, FIFA guy, and my ultimate
Okay.
favorite was the Tecmo Super Bowl.
Oh, I
3.
love Tecmo Bowl. I love
Tecmo
Tecmo
Super Bowl
Bowl.
3 because you can make your own football player. How
Could
cool.
you back then? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
It was an amazing time to be alive.
That's amazing for back then.
It is for 1993.
There probably wasn't much in terms of customization.
No.
But
No,
yeah.
but still very fun. Touchdown. I loved it.
I
Touchdown.
love Tecmo
I
Bowl.
love that when right at the end. Touchdown.
Yeah, then you get the fake crowd noise.
Yep. Yeah.
I had both. I probably played Nintendo more just because of Super Mario. I love Super Mario.
I know you and I spent countless hours on that PlayStation 2 playing GTA Vice City.
GTA, yeah.
Wonderful game. Wonderful game. So,
So whatever your favorite console is, turn it on and be sure to save and hit the bell to be notified when we drop new mediocre content. And if you're feeling generous, power up Player 2 and like, share, and subscribe. We're off to play a Super Mario Marathon, but what's going to happen next week, Ryan?
a full episode. That's right, baby.
Indeed, sir.
Yes. Yes.